Hello and welcome back to the Katahdin Zoo here on Planet Zoo in our franchise mode. We are back at it again, making a cheetah habitat this time. I really like the way this came out, so I hope you guys do as well. Now, we have been adding a lot of animals to our park lately, but they've been mostly smaller animals. We haven't really done any big ones in a while. The biggest one we've done so far, which was our last one, was either really the bison or the grizzly bear, and we need to bring in more of an iconic piece to our zoo. So therefore, we decided to go for a cheetah this time, and when I say we, I decided that because nobody else mentioned anything or anything like that, but that's besides the point. So what are we actually doing this time in our habitat? Well, I'll tell you, and what we're doing is we're going to add a rock wall here for our null barrier. As for the habitat, you'll see it very shortly, that we are going to line up the whole entire siding with rock, and toward the back we're actually going to use some fencing as well. Now, I actually use a bridge instead of using just a regular path because of the slope difference between both the habitat walkway and the walkway along with the river toward the back. So that being said, it takes me quite a bit of time to put up some rock, but that being said too, I do want to bring up some things while I play with my rocks. Yes, because that's really what the rest of the recording is about for right this second. So before I get on to building some more things and editing the terrain, I want to go over the fact that I'm doing a lot of pre-recording right now. And last video I asked you all to give me some suggestions on whether or not what kind of zoo you want to see for the next Planet Zoo franchise that I end up adding to the franchise. The next zoo that I end up adding to the franchise. So therefore, as of right now, I'm recording this right when I released the other video, so I don't really know what any of you guys said, if you even said anything at all. As of right now, pre-recording, so if I don't get a response within like 28 hours or 24 hours, I was thinking of 24 and 28 at the same time, so I kind of merged both of them together. But if I don't hear anything shortly, I'm probably going to end up doing, I think, an East Asia zoo, an Indian zoo, or an Africa zoo, and I literally just listed everything out except for European at that point in time. So that is where we're at in our decision-making process. So really, I just have to see what it's going to be. But as for this video, one thing that I end up doing is taking a break and letting my people research the Africa zoo biome, like all the building stuff for that theme. And I actually end up clipping something out, and you'll see it later in the video, where I made this stupid looking shelter, but I end up replacing it with Africa themed stuff. So it really brings out a nice look to our zoo. Now, that being said, we are back over here near our staff center for this area. And that being said, we end up adding a medium keeper's hut, because not only do I end up planning to have these two habitats here, I want to end up adding 2 more habitats toward this area. So that being said, it's going to be kind of like a square. I'm even going to try to put in 5 if possible, because it would really boost the efficiency. Not like money's an issue or anything, but I mean, like, it's an option out there. So with the barrier here by this staff center, I end up incorporating a wall with my gate here for this habitat. So therefore, we end up building the habitat into the wall after we make the wall. I end up dealing with a few issues trying to figure out how to deal with the staff path toward the back, but we end up figuring it out. It's just a lot of terrain difference, and what we'll do later, probably off camera, and I'll probably just show you guys, unless if you really want me to show you, you can let me know that too, but we'll just incorporate more scenery into the different landscapes that we have back there. Not like anyone's gonna see it, but do something basic enough to the point where it doesn't make our zoo look terrible if we're looking at it from a sky eye view. Now, cheetahs don't really require any sort of water at all, but we end up placing it down anyway because they can go over there and drink some water, give it more of a natural vibe. We don't end up putting any like water dishes or any pipe access for water in here either. So that is a benefit to our area as well. However, I do end up having to add a water pump outside of this area, so it actually works. Now, as for the bridge that actually goes up into the next planned section of the park, I end up just throwing a bunch of rocks near the side there so the cheetahs can't get out. We actually don't use any habitat like barriers to this except for the null barrier, which is the first in this park to actually have complete null barrier usage. So that is something that's actually special about this habitat as well. Now I will tell you right now that we do end up throwing our cheetahs in here and they get stressed extremely. So I don't end up fixing it in this video, but they are actually very shy to humans, which I didn't really notice, but I should have known. So we end up having to put up like do not disturb signs so they cannot be so stressed out, and hopefully people obey the rules of that, because they became a huge monument to our park. They get a lot of attention. Like, people are filling up the pathway toward the front, which is not, you know, the best thing, considering I didn't think about that when I built it. So the whole pathway is just kind of a mob. So we'll see if we can fix that later, but I'm just gonna let it be for right now. As for the scenery, we end up throwing a few trees down here and there. We are in the savanna biome of Africa, so therefore it's not a lot of trees, but still enough coverage for them to the point where they can have a little bit more privacy, and it gives a little bit more coverage to our area. And before I forget, I actually do want to point out one thing. On the Steam Workshop, I uploaded that little lemur education board that I've shown you guys in like the last 2 videos. So that is added to the workshop. The only thing that's not on that is the little lemurs on the back and the education board on the back. So basically everything that I updated from it isn't really shown. But I do have that on the Steam Workshop. I'll try to remember to put in the link in the description if anyone's interested. If I don't end up putting it in there, please let me know, because that would be an epic fail on my part, but knowing me, it will still end up happening. So back to the cheetahs. So the cheetahs have a great area. The only thing that I really need to do from now on is fix up the habitat building for them. And of course I have to add in all the little amenities for our visitors coming in and donating, which is very important. I gotta say, I love the pond area. It's around a bunch of rocks and it worked out perfectly. It really is something special, but so simple, in my opinion. But now to other news, we are going back to the little shelter that we're giving our cheetahs. We end up using a lot of Africa themed pieces. It ends up working better than the actual modern pieces. And you know what, since we are a modern zoo, we still keep this modern for the most part. It's just that we need to theme it a little bit more on the Africa side over here, so we don't confuse the fact that, you know, we're, you know, in North America versus, you know, Africa in the zoo. And that being said, for one of my plans for the zoo, I think this is going to be the zoo where we have every single animal, and we have it so it's like one of those big zoos that, you know, kind of fits in everything, but yet it's still modern. So that being said, I want to end up doing themed zoos, maybe smaller compared to the size of what this one's going to be. Leave me suggestions on what you think about that. But then we also do our fence line here, and I'm sorry, I kind of got a head start on the other shelter for our cheetahs and didn't really think of hitting the record button when I should have. So apologies about that. We end up going for this nice Africa but yet modern look to the railing of our bridge here. We don't end up filling in any gaps toward the bottom of them, so it's just all open underneath, and I just hope that's fine. I don't think it's gonna be much of an issue, like viewing wise. I still have to finish up the rivers a little bit, make it look more rocky, and try to do something with it so it gives it more of, you know, some sort of nice vibe, but I'm not quite sure what that's going to be yet. But yeah, I think the fence actually comes out really good. I haven't used that fence style in a while, like I haven't used it yet in this zoo, and it came out really well. I keep using the same one, so I'm trying to figure out different ways to incorporate different ones. But since we really have our habitat laid out like the way that we need it to, I thought we needed to do something a little bit different for our pathway here and for our guests that are actually looking at our animals. So because of that, I decided to add 2 hammock areas, so more like 2 shelter covered areas, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what to call it. I end up putting 2 in. I end up copy and pasting basically a blueprint of what I end up making. I was kind of thinking about maybe doing some sort of nice little like cloth or leather type overhang, but I couldn't figure out the right pieces to do that with and the proper way to go about it. So I end up just using all wood for it. I'm using these little decorative wood pieces, and I don't really know what to call them, but it ends up looking very good regardless. And I don't really do much else with this except for fixing the posts of which are holding this structure up. And with those posts, it looks like wood is going straight into the rocks, and I don't want that to look that way because it doesn't look real. So we end up putting some concrete pillars in toward the bottom just to make it look like it has that support. And therefore I also bump up the columns of the Africa style, the Africa style columns. I end up bumping it up so it sticks out a little bit at the roof, which ends up working out pretty well. Now it's very easy, just copy and paste, flip it over, kind of do small little edits here and there, give it this nice little vibe, and then I'm working really nice. And of course, one of the things that we have to do also is add up some education to this area, which I almost forgot, by the way. And what I end up doing is adding 2 TV screens, one to each little hammock area. I keep calling it a hammock, I don't know what to call it, forgive me. But we end up adding 2. We end up putting in the posts because that's probably the most realistic way of putting it on there. And then we end up speakers on each one of those. But other than that, that's all I really have to go over for this video. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the cinematics. Please leave a like if you want to help support out the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And as for those who have not subscribed, please be sure to do so if you want to keep watching, and leave me some suggestions down below. I will see you guys in the next video.